All right, all right. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend. How you feeling, Matt? You feeling good?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Last week at the fair, so we'll go back to our morning schedule next week. So thank you to everybody that has adjusted with us over the last couple of weeks. Yes, yes. Appreciate you, man. Thank you as always. Do you have a local fair that goes to your town?
I have no idea.
No.
I have no idea. When I was a kid, we used to go to the fair all the time, but then I moved halfway across the country. That's a better question for my wife who grew up here. I have no clue. I'm sure there is one, but I have not been to it.
Okay. All right. The county fair here for us is like a tradition. Like it's something that I've been going to since I was a kid and all that kind of stuff. So the Dade County Youth Fair is just one of those things that everybody kind of gravitates to down here in this part of our world. That's why I ask. I was going to ask you, if you ever go to the fair, what's that food that you always got to have? Because I mean, that's half the reason why we go to fairs is for the food.
Yes, I would say that normally, like to answer that would be easy. I would say funnel cake is my
Elephant ear.
Okay. I love a good funnel cake with some powdered sugar on it.
There you go. That's what I'm going to have when I'm done here. I'm going to go have me an elephant ear, bro, and enjoy a little bit of that. All right, so let's get to this. Bro, where do we stand with this Mac Jones story? Are you believing it or not believing it? Because we got a Patriot writer going, yeah, this story doesn't make sense. Pro Football Talk saying, oh, well, we hear that they're trying to shop him. And to me, that story makes no sense because I don't know how you sell Mac Jones to anybody at this point in time. And I don't know where anybody is saying, yeah, Mac Jones is our answer.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's my problem with it. So I'm not saying that the report's wrong because there's a world where they're trying to move on from Mac Jones. I could believe that. The problem with it is kind of to your point, who's going out and going after him? I mean, who is the team that's like, we're going to give you capital for him? Because you're not trading Mac Jones for nothing. I mean, you gave up a first round pick to acquire him. So you're not giving up Mac Jones for a second or a third round pick. That's crazy. Unless you have something else in your back pocket, which they don't. So do I think they'd have a conversation with teams about him? Sure. If they could get the right value for him, I absolutely believe they'd move him. But who is going to give them that value? And I don't know what team would do that, especially before the draft. Like if you're a team that's in the upper echelon of the first round, why would you trade for Mac Jones? Take a shot on one of these kids. I think that's a far better way to go than trade for Mac Jones.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, Larry Kruger, who works out west, he's got the Niners too, kind of trading Trey Lance, and I'm like, I disagree with that one too. I don't know how you trade Trey Lance at this point after you've traded 3 first rounders for the guy. At this point, Trey Lance, you have to give away. That would be a terrible look for the Niners. They need to keep him and try to prove that he is actually the pick, because once you give up 3 first rounders in a second, I don't think you can just give up on a guy like right away like that. And I get what Purdy did last year, but you still have to hang on to the guy. So to me, it doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't think it makes any sense either. Look, the reality of it is, again, first of all, if you're the Niners, like you need 2 quarterbacks anyway. So why? You're not getting anything for the guy. Nobody's lining up for Trey Lance. So, I mean, the talk around the league, I think in a lot of circles is they really would prefer to just play Purdy and move on. And if that's the case, why would you be like, yeah, we can't wait to trade for this guy who you don't even believe in? Right. I think a lot of times that those reports make it out to seem fair or not. Like, oh, there's this market for this guy. No, there's not. Because if there was, you would have teams bidding on them. Nobody's bidding on Mac Jones. Nobody's bidding on Trey Lance. There's no reason to bid on these guys. If you're New England, the best thing you could do is prove that last year was not the real Mac Jones and get him to throw 25 touchdown passes. But again, I look at New England and say, who's he throwing the ball to? Juju Smith-Schuster? Listen, right. Juju Smith-Schuster's fine on a really good team as a number 2 receiver. He's not a number 1 guy. He's not. But there he's going to have to be. So I just think in the end, Mac Jones will be in New England unless they can, by some miracle, get Lamar. And if they can do that, then okay, fine. But unless that happens, what would they have to offer that Baltimore would let him go to New England? I mean, it would have to be something just so astronomical that the Ravens said, okay, good luck with that.
Right. Yeah. It reminds me of the Tunsil trade for Miami. That O'Brien just kept adding to it. Hey, I'll give you a first. Nah, I'll give you 2 firsts. Nah, I'll give you 2 firsts and a second. Nah, I'll give you 2 firsts, a second, and we'll take Kenny Still's $8 million salary off your. Okay, yeah, we got it. Go ahead, take Laramie Tunsil. It just gets to a point where you have to trade him because the offer is so ridiculous that Laramie Tunsil tells Chris Greer, yeah, I would have traded me too if they offered that much. That kind of stuff. And I just don't see that. And plus, I don't see the Patriots giving up all those picks and giving up all that money also for a Lamar Jackson. You know what I mean?
I don't either. The funny thing is that they could have drafted him in the first place. Now,
right.
they could have had some behind Brady, so you understand why they didn't. But they could have. They were right there, and they took the kill Harry. So, right. Or maybe it was Sony Michel that year. I can't remember. Either way, it was
another receiver that never works out.
I went and looked once at their history of drafting receivers.
Woo!
It's unbelievable how bad it is. Yeah. I mean, Edelman's the only one who worked out. He's a 7th-round pick, and he's a quarterback.
Right.
I mean, it's incredible how bad they are. First, second, third round.
And he inherited Troy Brown, right? Is that what it was?
I believe so.
Or was he he did? He inherited him?
Yes.
Is that what it was? Yeah. Because technically, that's their, their best receiver they've developed, him and Edelman. Those 2 guys.
I mean, they've been able to draft tight ends.
Yes.
But that's about it. I mean, they're offensively challenged. I do not think that is going to be a team that's scoring a ton of points this year. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. What'd you think of Drew Rosenhaus saying that the Packers and the Dolphins were in talks with the Raiders to get Darren Waller in the last year leading up to the trading deadline?
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, first of all, everybody knew the Packers were. I mean, that's been out there. So Drew's not breaking any news with that one. That's been public knowledge. I mean, when they were doing that whole Adams deal at one point, Waller was in the mix for going back. So that's not surprising. The Dolphins, I'm not surprised. I mean, look, Gesicki, they basically put on the bench. They need another tight end unless you're just in love with Smythe. So I'm not surprised. It makes sense. I can see that. I still don't understand why the Raiders did what they did. I still don't get it. You're trading a guy that could, if he's healthy next year, could have 1,200 yards. I don't understand. And it's not like he's that old. It's just that's one of those trades that
Here's my favorite part about that trade. It shows the level of stupidity that you have in that organization. So now your free safety says, middle of the field is no longer a threat. Now I can move over to Devontae Adams.
Of course. And who's your quarterback? A guy who cannot throw outside the numbers or down the field. A guy who desperately needs a middle-of-the-field threat, and you traded away Darren Waller. For a third round, I always look at it if you have a third-round pick or you have Darren Waller, what is more likely to help you win football games?
Darren Waller.
Now, I get it if you're just some team, like the Cardinals with Hopkins right now. The Cardinals are in a complete blow-it-up rebuild mode. That's fine. I understand that. You're just trying to accumulate picks, get more darts to throw at the board. Fine. I'm 100% with them. You're the Raiders. You're supposedly trying to win right now. I don't understand. By the way, for the record, I think they're going to win 5 games this year. I will put my cards on the table right now. If they win more than 5 or 6 games, I'll be shocked. I don't think that team. I think they're going to be in last place in that division. I don't understand the thought process at all behind anything they've done, but trading Waller just seems to go par for the course.
So let me ask you something. The owner of the Patriots was asked about Belichick. Can Belichick survive another non-playoff year, losing season? They've had, I believe it's 2 out of the last 3 years have been losing seasons, or 3 out of 4 maybe. I'm not sure exactly. 2 out of 3, whatever, but it could be 3 out of 4.
The last 3 years.
Okay, so then if you miss the playoffs again, 3 out of 4 years.
Right.
And he said, hey, we don't have players here to build up stats, just like we don't have coaches here to, because they asked him, or is he just here to beat Shula's record?
Right.
So the question I have for you is, Does he beat Shula's record? Does he stay long enough to beat Shula's record? Because I have a feeling that this thing is going awry, and I'm not sure Kraft is going to have more than another year or two of patience anymore for Belichick. And I had this conversation before you came on. The greatest feat of any head coach ever, and I know it's blasphemous for me to say this here, it's not 17-0, dude. No, it's Joe Gibbs. 3 championships, 3 quarterbacks. None of them are Hall of Famers. And, he proved that he had the greatest system in the world because he moved one quarterback in after another. Well, here's Belichick, and he had the greatest, and they just brought him 6, and he ain't coming close to sniffing even the playoffs now without Brady. So, when I look at Joe Gibbs and I look at Belichick, you can call one the GOAT, but I can say, yeah, I'm more impressed with Gibbs, actually, when it's all said and done.
Yeah. I mean, I think he probably will beat Shula's record because if you're New England, like, let's say he finishes this year and needs 5 more wins or whatever it is. How many wins away is he right now from Shula? It's like 2 seasons worth, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like 14 or something, like something in that range. I just don't think Kraft, after all that Belichick's done there, if he's 5, 6 wins away, he's going to go, you know what, Bill, get out. I just can't imagine he's going to do that. I think they'll just let it play out. It is, and like
he is 10. He is. I'm sorry, 29, 20. No, he's 30 wins away
from regular season or all told. Like
all time. It says career wins: 328 for Shula, 298 for Belichick, 318 for Hallis. So he is 20 away from Hallis. He is 30 away from Shula. I don't think he breaks the record, my brother. I don't think he survives more than 2 seasons. I think he'll have another bad season, and I think he goes on the hot seat after this year. And I think he has another mediocre season. Then Kraft says, hey, you were great for us. We appreciate it. Time to turn the page. And I don't think he picks up 30 wins, bro.
30 wins.
He needs 3 10-win seasons to catch Shula. He's not winning 10 games anymore.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought he was closer to that.
So did I, actually. But when I looked it up now, he's not. He's 20 away from Hallis. Hallis is number 2 at 318.
Hallis, I think he has a pretty good shot of getting that.
A shot, maybe. Does he survive if these next 2 seasons he doesn't make the playoffs? Do you think?
Look, all right. So after looking at that, and he's 70 years old. He just turned 70.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, he's going to turn 71. He's about to turn 71. He's a couple weeks away. No, I don't think he's going to get Shula's number. After, for some reason, I thought it was like 14, 15 wins away. He's 30 wins away. No, I don't think he's getting there because I don't think that team's good. I think it's going to take them 30 wins. I think it's probably taking 4 years to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to coach like 75 years old? I don't think that's happening.
I don't think Kraft keeps them around that long if they're mediocre.
And here's another thing that nobody not to like get into everybody's age or anything else because I'm not trying to run people out of town or anything, but Robert Kraft is 81 years old. Okay, now his son Jonathan Kraft is in position to take over that franchise whenever he decides to walk away. My understanding is like Jonathan Kraft, I don't think has nearly the, I guess for the lack of a better term, loyalty to Belichick that his father does.
That's right.
Let's say at 81. Okay, so let's say he's 81. Let's say at 83 years old, Robert Kraft says, you know what, Jonathan, you take over the day-to-day operations. I'm going to step aside. I don't know that Jonathan Kraft is going to care that Belichick's 15 wins away in 2 years. I don't. And the other part of this is too, look, at some point, the NFL, Jerry Glanville had that famous line, the NFL stands for not for long.
Right.
Right? Like, let's say for 2 more years, they're not that good. They're not a playoff team for the next 2 years. If that's the case, now you haven't made the playoffs in 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, dude.
People in New England are going to, I'm not from Boston, I'm from New York, but I'm from that area of the country. People in that area of the country are going to say, get out, get out, get out. Take the rings. Thanks for the memories, Bill. Get out. I'll never forget going to a Yankees game. It's probably 2002, 2003. Somebody could look it up out there. Jeter had a stretch where he was like 0 for 31. Like, it was the worst stretch of his career. And they were playing my Oakland A's in one of those games. And he actually ended up breaking through against Oakland. But he struck out or popped up in his first at-bat. They booed him off the field.
I know.
The man had won
I remember
4 World Series. They booed him off the field. Like,
that.
Belichick, if they have another year where they go 7-10, people in Boston are going to want him out. They just are. So how long do you wait? So no, after looking it up, 30 wins. No, I do not think he's going to win 30 more games with New England. I don't.
By the way, not only that, after all that winning, you realize that Belichick only has 4 less losses than Shula?
Yeah, but I mean, Shula for years, my God. I mean, they were just a juggernaut.
Like, wow, dude. Like, he's going to have, even if he could get there, he's going to have more losses than Shula, too, at the same time.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you one that's interesting because I was just looking at the list after you brought it up. Who finishes with more career wins, Andy Reid or Bill Belichick? Andy's got 247.
And he has Mahomes.
And he's got a decade on him. I mean, Andy's 49 wins behind Belichick. So normally I think you'd be like, okay, well, that's such an insurmountable amount.
No, it's not.
I mean,
it's not.
Andy Reid is 65. Now, I don't know if he just signed a new contract. I think it was last year. So he's, I think, signed for 4 more years. If you're Andy Reid, what you decide to coach, you're like, I'm going to coach for 7 more years. With that team, with that quarterback, he can have another 100 wins.
Yes, exactly. Because no, you at worst case scenario average 11 wins.
Yes, that's 55 over the next 5 years.
Because they're going to sneak in 12 and 14 win seasons.
Yeah,
so for sure.
Let's say over the next 5 years they win 60 games. Easy. I mean, if Belichick only wins 14 more in his career, Andy's 1 more year from passing Belichick.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a really good case to be made that Andy Reid ends up with more wins. Now, he's not going to end up with more Super Bowls, I wouldn't think, unless they really go on quite a run. But, I mean, but there's a chance Andy Reid ends up with 300 some odd wins, maybe 310, something like that. Ends up with, 4 Super Bowls, went to 6. That would be a funny turn of event. I don't think anybody would have thought of that. But with Andy's record and his quarterback, and he's 6 years younger, he's got a real shot to actually beat out Belichick should he decide to coach long enough.
All right. Well, now I pulled it up here on Wikipedia, and it has Shula 328, Hallis 318, Belichick 298.
Right.
But you just pulled up a list that has Shula at 347, Belichick 329, Hallis 324.
That's including the playoffs.
Oh, I see. No, the playoffs don't count. Right? Is that what it is? Do the playoffs also count, or is just
it's a separate record? I mean, you could certainly sit there and say all-time wins, including postseason. But in terms of if you just look at NFL head coaching victories, it does not count the postseason.
Right? It just counts.
Because Hallis didn't have that. I mean, they had championship games. They didn't have the playoffs the way we do now.
Right. Exactly.
So that's that is probably what we were referring to earlier, where he's like a handful of wins away. That is the all-time, including the playoffs, including Super Bowls. If you're just talking regular season, he's still 30 behind Shula.
Right. He's still 30. All right.
That's the record. I mean, that's the real. Nobody includes passing yardage and touchdowns from the playoffs when they talk about those records. It's all regular season.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you there. Yeah, exactly. That's usually the issue there. By the way, I think it's a very interesting time in Denver. And it's an interesting organization because, the Elway problem has always been a Bronco problem. Elway was fantastic as a GM. He won a championship and everything. I know he could never find a quarterback, but this is a franchise that has never found a quarterback because they traded for Craig Morton, they traded for John Elway, and they traded for Peyton Manning. Yep. Their greatest draft pick at quarterback is probably Brian Griese, bro. Like, seriously, that's their best draft pick ever at quarterback. So he always gets that little hook on him that he couldn't find the QB and all that good stuff. But say whatever the hell you want, dude. In the end, the Denver Broncos, all their championships are tied to that one guy. And, brother, this is a very interesting time for the Broncos because they are moving forward without Elway as a player or as an executive. and it's really now up to the Walton, the family that owns the Walmart, and obviously
Right.
now
Walton, yeah.
George Patton or Walton, yeah, those folks. They really now have to kind of create their own, history without John Elway part of it, because the Broncos don't know success without seven involved, one way or
Well,
the other, bro.
so let's go through this. Okay, so they acquired him in May of 1983 from
Yep.
Baltimore. Okay, I'm actually, by the way, this is a nice little quick shameless plug. In 2 weeks, I'm dropping a piece, 40-year anniversary of the 1983 NFL Draft, and
Oh,
I've talked to a ton of people, including Bruce Matthews, who was in that draft, Tony Dungy, who had a really interesting story, by the way, about Dan Marino, like a fascinating story. But so, all right, so run that back. So the Broncos were a charter member of the AFL in 1960.
yep.
We went to one Super Bowl. They were basically relevant for 1 year. That Orange crushed 77
Crushed.
teams.
And they got crushed.
And they got, yes, Doomsday took care of them.
It was the same as what Elway did in his first championships.
Yeah.
When he got there against the Redskins and the
Right,
Niners, that those teams weren't really like the Niners or the Redskins. They were loaded, those teams. Those were real Super Bowl teams.
Oh, yeah. So Elway, before Elway showed up, they were good for 1 year out of 22. Okay. Elway shows up. They're competitive year in, year out. They go to 5 Super Bowls. They win 2. Of course, it's the last 2 years. They were really pretty irrelevant until he got back there. Now, I think as a GM, he was not a great drafter, but he was good at bringing in free agents.
He found a way. He won.
That's and he won. They won a Super Bowl. I mean, he brought in Manning as a free agent. They won. Now, my thing with them is
he built great defenses.
He did, because he was smart enough. Look, they brought in Wade Phillips as a defensive coordinator. Well, Wade Phillips coached him in Denver for a handful of years there after Reeves and before Shanahan. So that was a big part of it. Of course, he knew Kubiak, who was his backup quarterback for many, many years. The reality is, in Denver, they have not won a playoff game since they won Super Bowl 50. That's a lifetime ago in the NFL. I mean, that is a long time ago. And I don't think they're any closer, quite honestly, than they've been in recent years. I mean, I understand they brought in Peyton. They have no first-round pick again. And I will argue with anybody, that roster is not good. I have heard so many people in my seat who are national writers and reporters who sit there and say, well, if you look at that roster's not good.
They got some guys on defense, but their offense is
I would even
special.
say, though, Big O, other than Patrick Surtain, who is awesome, and Simmons, who's a very good safety, who's the guy? Who else on that defense are you like, that guy's a really good player? One of them's on the Dolphins right now that they traded. Yeah. Draymond Jones, who was very good, is with Seattle now. Randy Gregory has like 18 and a half career sacks and is 31 years old.
Yeah, he's never lived up to anything.
Who's the other guy in that defense? You're like, that guy's a good player. Josie Jewell? Like, I don't know who the guy is. And offensively, like, the receiving core is fine. None of those guys are top 12 to 15 receivers in the AFC. Not one of them.
That offense doesn't scare you.
Judy, Sutton, and Patrick are all fine. None of them are star players. None of them. Like, I look at the Broncos and say, unless Peyton can get Wilson to be his prime self, which good luck with that, that's like a 7-win team. I don't see it. They're not better than the Chiefs or the Chargers. They're not better than Cincinnati or Miami or Buffalo or Jacksonville.
No,
you're not that. You're not a playoff team.
Yeah. So
I look at them and go, yeah, that's fine. Like, Peyton's a hell of an upgrade over Hackett. I think they're winning like 7 games.
Yeah, unless Russell Wilson's going to, recapture the magic of 7-8 years ago, where he was a magician all the time and things like that, with an average receiving core and Doug Baldwin, your best receiver, and he was just creating miracles. Unless that guy's showing up again, which I don't know, I have a hard time believing that.
Big leap of faith.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be rough. So what do you got going on in Sports Illustrated, my friend?
So, like I said, I'm working on this piece about the 1983 NFL Draft. It's been really fun to work on. I've talked to a bunch of people, really big names for it.
Did you get all 5? Did you get all 5 quarterbacks?
I didn't get the quarterbacks, and so actually, don't cut Todd Blackledge short. There were 6.
It's 6 in the first round. God, I thought it was 5. Okay.
Eason, O'Brien, Marino, Kelly, Elway, and Blackledge.
Yeah.
Only draft in NFL history was 6. Also, fun little nugget that I don't think is going to make the story. That draft back then, it was 12 rounds. It's the only draft in NFL history before it went to 8 rounds or less, which it did in 1994. It's the only draft there was one Pro Bowler at minimum drafted in every round. Every single round. Carl Mecklenburg went in the 12th round of that draft.
The surgeon.
So, I mean, it was a hell of a draft. But that story's coming out in about...
By the way, is he still a surgeon?
No idea. No,
Think about it, bro.
He was a 12th round pick.
How do you become a surgeon when your fingers usually get all mangled as a defensive lineman?
I don't know that I'd be going under the knife with good old Carl Mecklenburg. But
yeah, I always wondered about that because he did study to be a doctor. So I always wondered, did this guy actually go to the operating table with I
hope not. I hope just for his
finger. Think about Brian Baldinger trying to do operations on you. No. Brian, we love you, brother, but no.
I think, but that story's coming out in a couple of weeks. But I guess I talked to Tony Dungy yesterday, who's about the nicest man you could meet. And he was with the Steelers at the time as a defensive coach. And he talked about them working out Marino. And it's a fascinating story. It's really, really interesting. Okay. So that's coming out in a couple of weeks. I've got my mock draft coming out next week, the one and only mock draft. And I will say this. It's my only real mock draft. I have one other one coming, I believe, around April 20th. Guys have to keep an eye out for it. I always make fun of mock drafts. I think they're ridiculous, even though I do one.
Yeah, but admit why you're doing it. It's not you. It's the people above you are demanding it because it gets clicks.
It does. It does. Now, I will say I put in I only do one a year, so I put in the effort. I really do try to make it legitimate. But I also did one as a fun game where I used the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart to trade every single first round pick and then do a mock draft. That was interesting. That took me a little time. So if you want to just get a laugh, I did it with the idea of I'm trying to make every trade make sense. And I made all the values match up and everything, but it was a chore, but it was a good time. So
it's impossible to think like 32 people, bro. Give me a break, dude.
Reward the work and read it and have a good laugh because that's what it's worth. So yeah, so all that stuff's coming in the next couple of weeks. Check it out over at Sports Illustrated.
It's going to be 80% wrong because it's just the way it goes.
Dude, I would take 80% wrong in a heartbeat.
Yeah. All right. So by the way, give it away. Stroud or Young? Who's your number one?
Oh, you got to read. You got to read for that. Can't do it. But check it out. Read it.
I'm a Stroud guy personally. I take Stroud over Young.
I will say this. I think Stroud is maybe better equipped for the NFL because of his size. But check it out. Check it out on my Twitter. Sports Illustrated, the MMQB, all of it. It's all there.
I like him too because he's got accuracy. That's the thing I like.
I agree.
And accuracy to me is like so important. When I see a guy that's inaccurate, it scares the shit out of me because I just feel like it's always going to happen. Where you are what you are at times. Even Josh Allen, who has fixed and gotten better since he got out of Wyoming in his first year in the NFL, he still has his moments that are like, oh shit, he overthrew that guy badly. And you're like, damn, dude, and that's not something that is, that's a trait that bothers me a little bit at times. And I do like Stroud in that sense that he does have some accuracy. So it's pretty impressive. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame and catch his exceptional work there at Sports Illustrated. Appreciate you as always, my brother. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care, Bigo.
You got it, baby. Be good. There you go. Is there something going on behind me? Oh, okay. Okay, so because I'm a little delayed here on the live one. Okay, I see. See, that's why I don't. You get to see that live. Like when I'm in studio, I have my live one right there, so I'm able to see that. There she is. There she is. Okay, that's cool. Okay, I got it now. That's cool. That's a great room. He's got video games going on and everything. That's a man cave if I've ever seen one. She's cute too. There you go. That's awesome. All right. We appreciate Matt Verderame. As always, we step out of the huddle.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.